Capcom presents.
Yeah, this is fine. I love this. When it comes to video games, fighting games truly are special. They're unique. There's nothing else quite like the feeling of you, your friends, and really whoever else feels like showing up, getting together and playing nothing but fighting games for the next 6 to 8 hours, screaming at the top of your lungs and going to bed at 4 a.m., miserable, but still having a great time. Honestly, if we didn't spend so much time trying to break the clothes off of Ivy and Soul Calibur, it probably wouldn't have been so bad. Don't judge me either, I know you did it too. But something I learned a long time ago is that whenever I am playing fighting games, I hold grudges. But I don't hold grudges against the people. Oh no, no. I hold grudges against the characters. And so we're going to talk about a few of them today. Hey, how you doing? I'm Van. Welcome back to the only channel on YouTube that can't decide what the fuck it wants to do. I got a new set. Look at that. This is like all of my junk. It's like all of it. There's a little bit that I couldn't fit up there, but like genuinely not much. But we've established on the channel before that I'm a gamer. I have always been a gamer, and I will always be a gamer. By the time we're implanting chips into our brains to ascend into the digital world, I'm gonna be maybe like third in line. I don't want to be first. Those are the ones that tend to like die. And fighting games have been in my life for almost as long as I can recall. My dad was a bit of a gamer, not as much as I am, but he still games even now. He had a Super Nintendo though. That's the important part, because one day he got Mortal Kombat 2. Now, I wasn't old enough to be playing that game, but that did not stop me whatsoever, and it would not stop any child ever. So I'm going to be talking about him today because I have nothing better to do right now. It's like 1:30 in the morning, nobody else is awake, and I can't sleep, so why not? Make sure you subscribe. I'm just over 1,000 right now. I'd love to hit 2,000 soon. That'd be phenomenal. And if you do like the video, check out my other stuff. It's not related to fighting games whatsoever, but there is some gaming stuff on there, so I mean, you can go for that. I don't really have an order that this list is going to be in. I don't know how long each entry is going to be, so yeah. Oh, and a heads up, a lot of this is going to be personal stories from me, retelling how I got to the point where I despise this particular character. I'm sorry if that doesn't interest you, but if it doesn't, feel free to click off the video now because I completely understand.
I wanna take you for a ride. I wanna take you for a ride.
If you would, picture this with me. You go over to your friend's house, or let's say even maybe a cousin, you know, just hypothetically. You go over there, and they have a Dreamcast, and you're like, wow, what is this? I don't have one of these. I think this is the coolest thing ever. And this is me I'm talking about here. This is me. I don't know how old I was when this story took place. I know I was young. The Dreamcast wasn't brand new or anything, like don't mistake that, but just the fact that there was a Dreamcast at all probably dates this memory a little bit more than I'd like to admit. It was incredibly cool. It had a little screen inside of the controller. The controller was like an N64 controller, but bigger and blockier and worse. Honestly, I like the Dreamcast controller. I think it's better than most other controllers of the era, but that's just, I think, an opinion. But my cousin, who will remain unnamed in this story, had Marvel vs. Capcom 2. And he played Cable, and I didn't get to play the game. You wanna know why? You wanna know why that is? Yeah, that was pretty much it. The problem with it is that the moment you open up even a little bit, Cable can just whip that thing out. It is a one-frame super, it comes out faster than any of the jabs in the game, and it can combo into itself as many times as you have the super meter. Typically, the way the fights would go is he would hose me down with just the laser beam. What's it? Hang on, I wrote down the name of it. Give me 1 second. Blast my asshole with the Hyper Viper beam 35 times in a row before running up to me and like shock grabbing me. What? I don't know if that was a command grab. I don't know if it was just a regular grab. Whatever it was like Cable picked you up and he had a joy buzzer in his hand. It did nothing for damage, but that was how he killed me every time. Maybe not every time, but it really felt like every time. Second place goes to Sentinel for a bunch of obvious reasons, but one specific reason is that I was humiliated at an arcade after spending my hard-earned quarters to try to fight somebody who I thought I could beat because I was confident at this point. And then he touched me one time with Sentinel, and I had to give up. I haven't let that go, especially considering once I picked up Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and went online for the first time, you know how that went. I met a Sentinel. And I didn't play online anymore. I don't know if I'm gonna upset anybody by saying this, but Jump Force is not a good game. I know it's an anime fighter, it's an arena fighter, and people love these kinds of games primarily just for the spectacle that they offer. But in terms of arena fighters, if you want one, just go play Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm or like Tenkaichi or something like that. Jump Force has two characters that I have beef with. The first is Aizen. Aizen I have beef with, not because I particularly despise fighting him, but because he ruined the game for me as I played through the story. I learned very quickly that the AI had absolutely no answer to his giant wall. I think it's Bakudo 81, I don't remember what it's called. But then, at that point, you can sit there and charge Black Coffin. And then you can continue to charge Black Coffin. And then you can continue to charge the combination of attacks that I used throughout the entire story mode with my create a character. Now let me clarify, that's not a good idea if you want to get good at the game, which may be why I think Jump Force is so bad, but I do think Jump Force is probably just bad anyway. Because this strategy does not work against regular human people who can think. And that's because Black Coffin's a garbage move. It's awful. It's so bad. It takes so long to charge. It does a tremendous amount of damage and it's unblockable if it hits. But the thing is that charge time is just god awful. I want it to work. I want it to succeed so badly. I want to be able to beat a person with it, but it is never going to happen because it is just useless. Sorry, I had to look at my notes. I forgot what the main villain's name is. Her name is Galena. She sucks, and I regret beating the story to unlock her. Like, I went through all of this, and this is the thanks that I get. No, I'm good. Does anybody else remember this rat? I know he's a dinosaur, but he's also a rat. His name is Gon. Gon is a little teeny tiny dinosaur, and I emphasize the little teeny tiny part because that means you can't hit him. That is his hitbox. It does not extend over his head. He is a small character. High attacks, unless they start very low, will go over him. And guess what? Most high attacks go over him. Most mid attacks go over him, or at least half or so do. Losing to Gon also feels equally disrespectful as well, considering a lot of the time that I lost to him, it was because he farted on me. The dinosaur farts, by the way. I don't know if that's a thing that they were known for in nature, but for some reason, I feel like it's not. Something interesting I learned while doing a little bit of research for this video is that Gon was actually a licensed guest character from a manga. The manga is the same name, it's Gon, and it's about a dinosaur just doing dinosaur stuff. He doesn't speak, there's no words, he's just having an adventure. There was also an animated show for him that came out in Japan not that long ago as well. It was apparently awful, and depending on the source you look at, there's either 76 or 53 episodes. I can only assume that means good things for the quality of the show, you know? Oh, that was a burp. Ugh. Also, the fart, the fire, and the Sonic the Hedgehog roll were all added in just for Tekken. As it turns out, a dinosaur doing dinosaur things doesn't typically show off his fighting skills in the wild. Just out of curiosity, by the way. Do you guys know Yoshimitsu? This guy makes you impotent. Tekken 3 was the game I was introduced to Yoshimitsu in, though. And in Tekken 3, not only does he have one of the absolute coolest grabs in the game. Quick note in the editing here, I can't see the after image of him there, and that's weird. I don't know if I just recorded it at a wrong frame rate or what happened, but yeah, the after image that's in this grab and that is supposed to be visible here is not visible. I don't know what happened, but it's freaking me out. Not only does he have one of the coolest designs in the game, but he is also one of the stupidest to learn characters when you're 8. Meanwhile, somebody who's actually good with Yoshimitsu will show up, stab themselves in the stomach, spin around really fast like a helicopter with his blade still, jammed in there, and then he'll make you impotent. I also don't like Hwoarang. Long leg bitch.
Hey, c'est pas vous qui nous donnez des ordres.
I seem to have big beef with small guys, because in Soul Calibur, there is exactly one person, one foe, who I dreaded seeing more than any other, and I know you can guess who it is based on the hint that I gave. Yoda's punk ass is the worst. The same problems that Gon had, Yoda also has. He's small, he's agile, and he farts and pisses and shits. That's unrelated to how he fights in the game, but it's annoying nonetheless. He's a puppet. He shouldn't have those functions. But Yoda is highly mobile, very agile, and very, very difficult to pin down. Even if it wasn't for his small frame, the way that Yoda fights by jumping and leaping all over the place would already make him difficult to deal with. But once you couple that with his size, it becomes even more terrible. Not to mention he has a lightsaber, and those things are scary, man.
I'll do everything that I can.
On this list, the game that I personally remember the most fondly is Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 3. With a roster over 160 characters, I think the exact number is something like 162. I didn't write it down, but that feels right. The roster was packed with almost every single Dragon Ball character that had ever been made at that point, barring like the rabbit Goku abandoned on the moon. But with so many characters, and with it being an arena fighter, an anime arena fighter no less, it's bound to be unbalanced. And let me tell you, it definitely was. It was a ton of fun, but it was not a balanced experience in any way, shape, or form. And that can be seen primarily in the way big characters operate. Whenever I say big characters, I mean characters like Broly, Bojack, the Great Apes, Harudagon. If you were not of a certain level of power, your attacks would simply hit them and do nothing unless they were charged or a powerful attack that required energy. Generally, what this translated to is that anyone below Super Saiyan 2 could not stun any of these bigger enemies. This wouldn't have been too much of a problem because, of course, you can just have that character in the back. But my best character is Birder. Birder can't stun anyone. My best friend's character is Broly as well, and let me tell you, I have to go through like 3 characters before I can even deal with Broly. Every one of these characters are just a pain to fight, because it's not fun to fight an enemy who doesn't respond to your attacks. It's like fighting a wall. All you're gonna do is end up hurting. Hopefully you'll damage the wall, but the wall doesn't feel pain, and the wall will collapse onto you, killing you instantly. I also want to give a shout out to Videl, because Hercule is at least meant to be a joke character. He's meant to be awful, he's meant to be bad, he's meant to be Hercule. That's how he's always been. Videl is meant to be her own, like, semi-competent fighter, and they never do her justice. Or at least they didn't until Dragon Ball FighterZ, but, like, they still didn't do a great job. She's not meant to be a phenomenal fighter, don't mistake me. She's not meant to be, like, Super Saiyan level or anything. But I feel she should be better than she is in Tenkaichi, considering she can do almost nothing. She can do just as much as Hercule, if not less, to be perfectly frank. And I'm not Frank, I'm Van. Subscribe! It's a certified hood classic right there, guys. Like that. That's one from the vault. Hey, do you like DC superheroes? Oh, cool. Well, do you like seeing DC superheroes stand on opposite sides of the screen throwing projectiles at each other for 15 minutes? Injustice 2 wasn't fun. Not at the end of things, at least. And not if you were playing somebody who played optimally. Until I started looking into this video, I didn't really realize how much of an issue that I had with Injustice 2, and I think I've boiled most of my issues down to exactly 3 characters. The first is Black Adam, because even if you do approach Black Adam, he has getaway moves. He has things that can knock you further away from you so he can continue to lightning bolt you. But the startup to this lightning bolt is so quick, and it's so hard to respond to consistently that it just doesn't make it worth it. Black Adam's also covered in other projectiles. Like, he is everything that's wrong with Injustice 2, and I stand beside that. Well, not everything. There's also Grodd. Grodd is the character that I feel like they just gave up on. He's there for you to, like, hand the controller to your little brother and tell him to mash buttons until he's bored. He just yells at you real loud. Like an asshole. Also, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were really disappointing. I can't really pinpoint down exactly why I dislike them, but I think the best thing that I can say is that it feels like NetherRealm tried to make 4 characters with 1 character template. And in order to do that, you have to make a pretty generic character template to splash moves into in order for those splashable moves to be useful. This ends up creating 4 boring, generic feeling characters instead of 1 unique feeling character. As a longtime fan of the Turtles, I can tell you they don't fight the same, man. Like, they were trained by the same master, they know the same kung fus. They know the same karates, but they don't fight the same. They are different to their core. They are very unique individuals, and you don't feel that expressed in really any significant way outside of 1 or 2 moves and whatever weapon they seem to be holding at the time, even though they're not really using it as much as they should either.
You ain't even worth it.
Oh, bitch just stabbed me! Fuck you, Crow. Like, what a a sore loser, man. Like, we haven't even won yet, and you stab me with a sword. And, like, don't get me wrong, this is Def Jam Fight for New York, where people can be pogoed on their head by a 300-pound muscle man and be totally fine. So I'm sure it was more like just getting a paper cut. But still, the fact remains that he whipped out a sword and stabbed me before being thrown out of a window. Fight fair, like I didn't throw him out of a window. For this one, we're going back a little ways, and I mean, like, not too far, but further than you'd think. We're talking Naruto Ultimate Ninja, and I mean specifically the first one. I don't mean the arena fighters, I mean the layered 2D fighter. Honestly, it's not bad. Like, cell shading holds up really well. This game had a decent roster, and it had a couple of very powerful characters in Ninetales Naruto and then Curse Mark Sasuke, but the character that I have beef with is Shikamaru. He's no stronger than anybody else, he's no better than anybody else, he's just Shikamaru. So why do I have beef with him? What makes him so difficult for me to deal with? Well, the same friend who I couldn't deal with when he was picking Broly also picked Shikamaru, but I didn't have a team to back me up against Shikamaru, so I don't think I ever won once. I'd pick everybody, I'd try everything that I possibly could. There was nothing I could do. I don't know what it was. I have no answers to the level of power that his Shikamaru specifically possessed. I think it's a psychological thing, right? Like, everybody has at least one or two characters where even though they're not particularly strong or particularly busted, you just don't do well against. Maybe it's their playstyle, maybe it's the person who's controlling them, but you just can't deal with it. Alright, heads up. This one's going to be a little longer because I have a lot of opinions about Mortal Kombat. We're going to start with Shao Kahn because Shao Kahn's a little baby man now. Shao Kahn's been a mainstay for a very long time, usually appearing exclusively as a boss character. In Mortal Kombat 11, he came in as a regular fighter and was not good, slow even for Mortal Kombat 11, which is saying something, honestly. My big problem with Shao in Mortal Kombat 11, and we'll get to current Shao, give it a second. My big problem with him in Mortal Kombat 11 is that he was slower than average, and in Mortal Kombat 11, the speed is already pretty middling. But when you couple his slower than average speed with his regular ass damage, low combo potential, and just slightly better than average reach, you really end up with a character who's not good. You just end up bullied more than anything. And I mentioned Mortal Kombat 1 Shao is the exact same problem. Exact same issues, right down to the letter. Shao Kahn is designed as a boss character. Everything about him is designed to be overpowered and to do an insane amount of damage without much effort on Shao Kahn's part. When you take that away from him, he suddenly becomes just this big dude who feels like he's made of paper mache. His shoulder checks don't do much, his hammer feels like it's plastic. It's just underwhelming because he's meant to have more power than he does. Motaro in Mortal Kombat Trilogy was a pain in the ass also. I don't really remember Motaro that well in the other games, but I'm sure it's basically exactly the same. But Motaro in Trilogy specifically, I remember being able to reflect projectiles. Not that he had a move that could reflect projectiles, mind you. No. He reflected projectiles. If any projectile touched Motaro, not only would it not do any damage to him, but it would bounce back against you. If I'm remembering that right. I may be wrong. Fuck, it's been 15 years since I booted up Mortal Kombat Trilogy. I don't have a PS1 anymore, and I haven't thought to emulate it. But also, he could teleport. I didn't want to put too many boss characters on this list. They are meant to be unfair. They are meant to be unfun in some respects, but Motaro especially always felt so bad to play against. On the opposite end of that spectrum, we have D'Vorah, who's just disappointing, and D'Vorah is D'Vorah. She killed a fan favorite character, she pissed a lot of people off. I don't want bugs to be implanted into my belly and then for me to be chest bursted. It's not how I want to go. Bo Raicho's nasty and annoying, and I don't know why they keep putting them in shit. And then Mortal Kombat Armageddon had the most forgettable main character in any Mortal Kombat game I've ever played. I beat Mortal Kombat Armageddon like multiple times, and I could not have told you Taven's name before I started looking up things for this video. I also completely forgot he had a brother named Dagon, who does even less. Now, if you're watching this list and you've made it to this point, thank you so much. please subscribe. But if you're watching this list and you made it this far, you're probably wondering where a specific entry has been, a specific game that I've not talked about all the way up until now. It's a big one, too, and I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting for it.
Digimon Rumble Arena!
Woo! Let's go, baby! Digimon! Woo! Zangief fluctuates wildly from incredibly overpowered to middling at best. There's very, very little middle ground for Geef. He's genuinely either one of the most busted characters, bar none, or it feels like he's wearing anchor arms. Street Fighter 6 is the anchor arm variant. Meanwhile, Street Fighter Alpha 3 Geef could kill you with a glare. This is particularly egregious to me because I, personally, love playing the big meaty boys. Especially as I've gotten older, I've tended to gravitate more towards the larger characters who do more damage per hit with lower combo potential because I don't feel like learning how to do the combos. Especially because I've never been very good at Street Fighter. But I picked up Geef in Street Fighter 6 and put him right back down because I was disappointed. That combo potential just really isn't there. I mean, it's there, of course, a little bit, but it's Geef. Geef is a wrestler. He's a slammer. He will pile drive you into the ground over and over, but he'll only do it like 3 times and then he'll let you go. The damage is alright, but Geef is also slow. He's lumbering, and he's got a big character model, even if it is a little smaller than in some games. And I also can't really remember any time that I've seen anybody play as him since the game actually fully released. There's one more character, one more very specific character, that I don't like very much. Killer Instinct was a game. It was a really good game, too. At least this Killer Instinct was. I can't speak for the older ones, except for one. I can speak for the Killer Instinct on the Game Boy. Not the Game Boy Advance, not the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy. My grandparents had a Game Boy until I was, like, 10. I don't know what happened to it. I wish I still had it. It'd be great if I did. Let me see something. This is the only way I've managed to keep track of this thing for all of these years. This is 20 years that I've held on to this copy of Killer Instinct for the Game Boy. I'm 100% sure it does not work anymore. The battery's probably long dead. I want to clarify, this game is not good. It's Killer Instinct for the Game Boy, like what'd you expect? But specifically, as a child, I remember fighting Spinal over and over and over again, and for some godforsaken reason, I could never beat him. I could beat almost anybody else. I could beat Saberwolf. I could beat Glacialis, Iceman. I could beat TJ. I could beat nearly anyone on that roster just by spamming like the same move, because that's all I knew how to do. Might have been all I could do. I really don't know how complex this game got. But Spinal still managed to beat me every single time. He looked at me and told me, ah. He looked at me, his skull cracked open with that crazy smile of his, and he told me in no uncertain terms that I was boned. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it so much. I forgot that I had this, actually, until literally just now. I was cleaning earlier, and I saw this, the Nintendo 64 thing, and it didn't dawn on me what was in it until as I was recording this video. Wow, that's... I genuinely forgot I had this. Well, that was neat. If you made it this far in the video, please like it. It'd be awesome of you. You'd be a cool guy. Again, I don't really have a direction for the channel yet. If anybody has any suggestions for any kind of video you want me to do, feel free to let me know. I enjoy just talking about stuff. So, even if it's something I have no knowledge of, I'll happily look into it and make a video anyway. Yeah, that's all I got. Y'all have a great rest of your night.